Thank you and welcome everyone to the Fiscal Planning, Finance and Building Committee meeting of Tuesday, October the 8th, 2024. This is a hybrid version and it is also hosted at the Brampton Room at the Central Board Office. This is the open session of this committee meeting. Then we have quorum, so we'll begin. I will call to order this meeting. And item number 2 is a motion to convene into closed session. Trustee Promoli, will you move that? Trustee McDonald, will you second it? Thank you. All in favor of moving into closed session? Thank you. We're so moved. Item 3 is a rise and report from the closed session. At this section, I need to rise and report from our closed session regarding minutes of the Physical Planning, Finance and Building Committee closed meeting of September 10th, 2024, and the procurement activity report for August 1st to August 31st, 2024. Trustee Davies, will you move that? And Trustee Promoli will second it for us. All in favor? That report, thank you. That is carried. Item number 4 is acknowledgement of traditional lands. Thank you, media.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is approval of the agenda as we have it before us. Trustee Promoli will move that. Trustee Johal, will you second it, please? So we have that on the floor. Are there any questions about the current agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of approval? That is carried. Thank you. Item 6 is declarations of conflict of interest. Wait a few seconds to hear or see, and there are none. Thank you. Item 7 is approval of the meeting minutes. In this case, 7.1, the Fiscal Planning, Finance, and Building Committee meeting of September the 10th. Trustee Davis, will you move that? And Trustee McDonald, will you second? Are there any questions about those meetings? Item 7.1. Seeing none, all in favor of approval? Because that is our committee meeting, we need to approve it. Item 8 is delegations, of which there are none. Item 9 is staff reports. 9.1 is Malala Yousafzai Public School enrollment class cap, which is here for our information and will be presented to us by Dana Gutierrez, our senior planner at the board. Welcome, Dana. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Cameron. The information report before you outlines the details of an enrollment class cap at Malala Yousafzai Public School. An enrollment cap is a temporary measure put in place to address enrollment at a school that exceeds its permanent and portable capacity. In September, there was a significant increase in enrollment at Malala Yousafzai, which prompted the need for additional portables. There are now 7 portables on site at this school, which is the maximum the site can accommodate. The details of the enrollment class cap are as follows. The school can accommodate a maximum of 40 classes. Within the cap of 40 classes is 7 kindergarten classes. The school can accommodate a maximum of 7 portables. The 40 classes will utilize available classroom space as well as the 7 portables. The school will accommodate as many new students as possible into existing classes before it has to start redirecting new students. Once the enrollment class cap is deemed active, new students in kindergarten to grade 5 will be directed to Roundtree Public School. New students in grades 6 to 8 will be directed to Cheney Middle School. These schools were chosen due to their geographic proximity to the CAP school and their ability to accommodate additional enrollment in available surplus classroom space. No existing students at Malala Yousafzai are affected by this enrollment cap. Students with special education needs who are supported by EAs will be accommodated at Malala Yousafzai Public School. Busing will be provided in accordance with the board's transportation policy while the cap is active. Planning staff will work with school administration at all three locations, as well as with the Communications and Community Relations Department to ensure that there's clear communication to families once the enrollment class cap is active. I'm happy to take any questions anybody might have.
Thank you, Dana. I think we recognize that this is a very unique scenario. We just opened this brand new school the day after Labor Day, and about a month later, we're facing a report that's but suggesting, recommending it be capped. That's it. That in my 14 years, anyways, that's a very unusual scenario. I respect that you have nothing that you can do here to mitigate this increasing enrollment number. So I respect your effort here. So let's get it on the floor first. Brad, will you move it? Trustee McDonald will move it. Trustee Promoli will second it. All in favor of it being on the floor? It is here. Trustee McDonald, question.
So, I'll ask the question, why are we in this mess? But not because we have too many kids, but why are we in this mess?
So there was a significant increase from what we projected the school to be to the number of students that were in the building at the end of first school week. What we are thinking has happened is that as families see the new school finally constructed and open, they have now started to come to the new school. The area is largely built out, so we don't anticipate that enrollment growth will continue. This, like I mentioned in the report, the school will do everything they can to accommodate as many students as possible who come to the school into existing classes, but they are limited in the number that they can accommodate. In the summertime, we moved 4 portables there in anticipation of some enrollment growth, but it was significantly higher than what we projected.
I was looking for a different answer. Like the government wasn't allowing us to build other schools, so we have to have this in the case. So that's not part of the reason.
Well, we do have Mount Pleasant number 9 public school that's under construction, which, however, that is not going to provide relief to Malala's side with its new boundary. It will open full, much like Malala has when it is done.
I don't know if you can see where I'm going. It's like, the government has restricted the building of our schools. And so we've had schools not being built like we had just in time previously. Now it's after. Then we have to prove that there's students are going to fill it up, and we can't even build it to the full size. So we'll build half, and then we'll do the addition a year or two later. So is that what's causing this?
Well, I think that's part of the reason, but the other part too is this school site was more restrictive for portables than some of our other schools. Some of the other schools in the area, such as Aylesbury, Tribune, Golson, they can accommodate more portables than Malala can. And so at 7, that's quite limiting, whereas a lot of our sites can accommodate up to 12. And that's due to site size.
Yeah.
Can we go through the chair?
Sorry,
My apologies.
That's okay. We're there now. And
through you, Chair. So, I was looking to send a letter to the government to say, we're in this mess. Sorry. Okay.
I think Associate Director Gill would like to respond.
So through you, Chair Cameron, just to add to what Dana has mentioned. So if we go back and sort of look at the process of getting a new school and getting it built. So ministry like to see that we have the students on the ground.
Right.
So not that we are growing into the school, which we would love to have that, but more like the students are already there before they actually approve you getting the new school. So the funding for the new school. So then it takes up to 5 years to get that school built. So by the time you actually open that school, you're already exceeded because you're already behind. Right? So there's one area that the ministry, based on the feedback from the school boards, where they have made changes is their own approval. They used to have where they give you the funding approval, then it still takes you almost 2 years before they can allow you to let you go and tender that project. So they changed some of the process there. So I think within now most likely 6 months or so approval, they'll get to the full in there. And they're also working with still continue to work and see if they can make changes with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs to see if they can convince the local municipality to expedite some of the approvals. But that one we still we haven't seen any improvement there. So I think if you look at all that, by the time like we would have to have that, we would love to have that school maybe 5 years in.
Right,
That's
through you, Chair. So really, this school should have been built 5 years ago.
5 years, exactly.
And then we wouldn't be at
Exactly.
this position through you, Chair,
Exactly.
now. So I will ask you through you, Chair, do you think we need to be sending a letter to the government to say that we need to change your priority funding because it is creating such havoc of the mess of this and all the other stuff that we have, because we have holding schools just because they won't allow us to build schools.
So what I would say about that, Trustee McDonald, is that I think what the ministry would say is, but when we look at your capital priority submissions, we don't see another school in that area that we haven't provided you with funding for. So Mount Pleasant number 9 was on the capital priority list. We now have funding. Malala Yousafzai was on. We're now open and running. And to me, it looks more like, and they could also say, in an example in my area, Southfields Village was built, and the same thing happened here. The growth was massive and way ahead of the ability to accommodate at the school. And we got a second school, right, in Tony Pontes within the same area. So I think that they could say, well, wait a minute, I would be fearful that it would be a thank you, but you guys didn't put another school on your list. We have a high school on their list.
Yeah, and through you, Chair, I don't mean to argue. It's not that we don't put the stuff on the list. It takes, many years before they agree that we're allowed to give us the opportunity, and then another 2 years before they give the permission to build it when we've been wanting it from day one. So, yes, we get at the end, we get the schools, they're there, but it's the chaos that's happened to trying to house kids in our schools during that period until we get, the new schools coming along.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And what I was answering to is how I think they will answer, right? We have some logical reasons that you're citing. I also think that in this example, Dana has presented a recommendation for us to receive relative to next year, right? This is a proactive step that will not likely involve any students this year because the subdivision has filled out and the growth has already taken place. But in the event that next year something happens where we've got continued movement, for example, from Dufferin Peel Catholic, right? If you have families in the area who like this shiny new school, and they're coming over, they're not new to the development necessarily, but they are now going to be new to our school. So those students may not get in 25, 26. I would just ask Associate Director Gill if you think there's merit to a letter in this regard as suggested by Trustee McDonald.
So through Chair, I think if you look at it, does it merit a letter? I would say yes, merit a letter. But I also argue against it in the sense that ministry will definitely come up with their rationales. They'll use some examples of, I would use the color Denise that we approved it, but it took you almost 2.5 years to get into the ground. Like they'll use that. I mean, it's totally different situation, but they'll talk about those items in there just to put it back on us. And also, I think they'll talk about that look, you provided us the feedback, we changed our process. We were taking 2 years, now we're getting approval in months. So that we have made some improvement. So I think the answer will be all those type of matters. So based on that, I would say, let's see how things go for the next project. And then if we still continue to see the changes, then we at that point we can write it. But for now, I think that's just the situation is.
And thank you, Chair, and thank you, Associate Director Jaswal, or Gill. You know, if you need help,
Yes.
we're willing to help you at any time.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for raising the question. I think it is something that we should keep an eye on. Mount Pleasant number 9 is our next one, right? We're in the ground,
Yeah.
right? So this should be our next set of eyes on how this goes, right? I do agree that, and I would like the committee to know the Caledon East challenges we're having, where 2.5 years ago we had a photo op with Minister Letier and Deputy Premier Jones in front of Caledon East, and Associate Director Gill was there. I was there, and 2.5 years later, we still don't have a shovel in the ground. Now that is not all this board's fault, right? This is trying to work with 2 other government arms, namely the town of Caledon and the Region of Peel, who have been through enormous changes. Losses of planning department, and I'm not making excuses for anybody. I've been very frustrated by the process, but we're almost there. Thank you to Controller Thomas, who is just, he's had his nose to the grindstone and helping us move every step of the way. But it is something I would not want them to wave back in our face, that we haven't moved fast enough when it's not solely our issue. So thank you. We will keep an eye on that. Trustee McDonald, thank you for the suggestion. Trustee Davis, question?
Thank you so much for this report. I just, from being the local trustee, I understood as currently no students are inconvenienced right now, but we are preparing for it for next year.
So through you, Chair Cameron, at this time, the school is not redirecting any students yet. They will do everything they can to fit as many students into the existing classes that they have. And in conversations with the principal, she doesn't anticipate having to redirect anyone yet, but we do like to have these plans in place so that in the event that we get to a position where we do have to redirect, everyone is aware of what the plan should be, and we know how to move forward with connecting families with the new schools, communication plans, transportation, etc.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you very much for your information all the way through this. When even in the planning stages, I was informed and involved. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Trustee Promoli?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So I was not a trustee during the stages of this planning for this school. So I was just curious, what did we ask for when we were proposing this school? Is this in line with what the initial proposal was, or did we ask for a larger plant, or what was the initial?
Yep.
Yeah, what was the initial plan?
Good question. Historically, I think I know the answer, but go ahead, Dana.
So if we did ask for an 850 people place school, which is what we received.
Can I just?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, sure, Chair. And actually, again, not to give but some clarity to the ministry. Many times we ask for 850 based on the long-term goal. The ministry will be only approved 650. We have seen it. And then the next year we ask for addition. But at least in this case, they did realize that in the long run, we need a school which is 850, and they did it.
And so through you, Chair, so it does seem that with the best information that we had, it does seem like everyone did try to plan for what was expected to be enrollment in the area. So I appreciate that. This is quite a large school. K to 8, 850 students is it's a large school, right? So now, did the initial plan include a plan for 7 portables, or was that ever the intention to have those 7 portables?
Through you, Chair Cameron, actually the initial plan would have shown that potentially 10 portables could be there.
Okay.
But if you visit the school with the 7, you will see there's very little blacktop play space left. And when we did go and put the 4 portables there this summer, we very quickly realized that there was no way we would ever get 10. And that the limit was going to be 7. So we put as many as we could there this fall to accommodate the additional teachers.
Okay, and so through you, Chair, so the 850 would be accounted for within the physical building itself, and the additional students are accommodated. Okay, just one more thought.
So just, could I just add something to that?
Sure.
So that we all understand how this works. The MRC, the ministry rated capacity of each school,
Mhm.
only is accounting for the number of seats in the building. So when you talk about 7 more portables, if they can accommodate, and I'm guessing 20 students each portable, that's another 140. But that's not the MRC. That's how the ministry sees. They see us as having 850 people places at that school.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that, Chair. So yeah, just one last thought. I know that there's been some questions of, some conversation over the last couple of years where we have seen, additions and buildings and, new schools being built with the intention of portables being part of that, and our desire to see larger growth and the ministry not granting that additional growth. So for example, Thomas Street Middle School, if you did just put that beautiful new addition on, it's fantastic. The school looks great. And it's so great to see everyone learning in that new space, but that still included many of the portables still being left there. So it would have been nice recognizing the need in that community and a continuing growth in the neighborhood for Thomas Street Middle School, for that to be accounted for when we are building, when we're already in the process of construction. And that would be the one place where I would really like to see the ministry come to the table and make sure that we are enabling the board to move forward on plans that are going to best accommodate students. But I think, here it's exciting to see a building full of kids. It's a tough situation when there's so many that want to come to the same school and that are in that area. But I appreciate that we were given what was asked for right from the start. So yeah, and thank you for all the time spent on this and the clarity on it. So tough situation, but thank you.
Thank you. It's a long-standing story of the short-sightedness on the ministry part at times, where they would have given us 650 when we knew, our experts know, it's going to be 850 soon. Right? If you need an example of that, Tony Pontes, 650. We already have 7 portables on site. But the bizarre part about that story is that we got 650. We knew we needed more. At the same time as we were building the new school, we were making application for an addition, which was really a very unique scenario and order of things. Well, we didn't get the addition, and here we are now with a need for additional space. I will say, listening to this discussion, and thank you everyone for this, is that all of us as trustees here and those online and everybody who isn't here or online, that to keep in mind, there are times when we get asked that it's brought to us, I think Suzanne more recently talked to us about how the developers were asking us to build smaller schools, right? Or 2 multiple layered schools so there would be less land. Let us keep in mind these kinds of examples of the blacktop space that has been taken away from children's opportunity to play because we've had to add portables, and to say nothing of kiss and ride, parking spaces, all of that eats up that space as well. So I had oh yes, there's a question. Well, Carla, go ahead. Sorry, Trustee Bailey, go ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just a quick question. I noticed that there was an exception for children that have special needs. But what about children who's already have a sibling at the school? Will they be redirected to the new school, or will they be going to the same school? How does that work?
Thank you, Dana.
So through you, Chair Cameron, when the cap is active, if a family comes to the school and the school is able to accommodate the student, say in grade 4, but not the student in kindergarten, the school would redirect both students so that siblings stay together. Hopefully that helps answer the question.
Did you hear that, Trustee Bailey?
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. So,
You're welcome.
So even though if the child is in grade 4 has been there for 4 years, we would redirect them to the new school. I understand that it's not active right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
So through you, Chair Cameron, students who are currently at Malala will stay at Malala Youth System. They will not be redirected. Students who are currently at the school.
Associate Director Gill would like to add.
Chair, I think the family is given the option. Or they're given the option to have the child stay at Malala or have both childs go to the school, the redirected school.
Okay, thank you.
I shared an example in our pre-meeting yesterday about Mount Royal many years ago, which was so full. And the board was being inundated with delegations from families who wanted the siblings who were coming along, ready to go to school, to be able to go to that school. And I did not understand, because I've never seen Mount Royal, and when I don't see things, I don't want to vote on them. So administration was saying, please don't open this door. We have no room. Students that are coming along now, we can help them family stay together with that option. Or the older one can stay there and the new one would be redirected. And so I went to look at the school, and it was there were 17 portables on site, and there was no room. And I wrote to all my colleagues to say, look, if you don't get a chance to go see that school, let me be your eyes. And we cannot do this. Please, let's not do this to our administrators, our senior team. It is a full house. And thankfully we moved on from that, and families were able to use the option to their favor, or split their children into the school. So I did see another hand. It was, yes, Trustee Joe Hall.
Yes. Thank you through you, Chair Cameron. I was just wondering for the future planning, if there are some lessons can be learned from this mess that the situation doesn't repeat.
So I'll ask our staff. Controller Thomas, yes.
Thank you, through you, Chair Cameron. Thank you for the question. I mean, I think further to the comments from Associate Director Gill, I mean, there are a lot of considerations to unpack in terms of planning for future schools, and especially for growth in certain communities. So further to what Associate Director Gill said, the ministry does look for schools to have a projected enrollment of 100% or more for the first few years once it opens. So they're not looking for us to grow into the school. They're looking for the school to be full. So basically they want portables to be on the site temporarily while the population of the school spikes. And then once a community matures, the neighborhood matures, and the enrollment starts to decline with time, then that capacity, the permanent capacity to which the school is built, should be sufficient to accommodate to the ongoing enrollment of the school. So it's trying to sort of play this delicate game of forecasting the enrollment to match the capacity that we expect will be there for the long term, but also recognizing that there will be some short-term pressure because of that initial spike. So we are, as was noted earlier, we are catching up in some respects in the first few years because of some of the delays getting approvals from the ministry, from the municipalities with planning and then getting construction completed. So there is an element of that, but that's essentially the challenge that we face. The other thing I will note too is the ministry also looks at our past record of the schools that have been built in recent years to see how those have gone. So at this board, there are many schools that have been built with fairly significant ministry rated capacity figures. And the ministry has questioned, looking at some of the other schools that have declined in enrollment, basically asked us, why did you need such a large footprint? And so these are the kinds of considerations that we have to be accountable for as we present our business cases to the ministry for capital priorities funding. It's trying to find that right balance. And as Associate Director Gill said, we are trying our best to ensure the ministry fully recognizes the pressure that local communities put on us when we don't build a school that's big enough to accommodate that initial enrollment surge. It's the question around, but what about in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that we also have to explain to them that this capacity figure that we've asked for is correct. And that kind of plays into this whole 650 versus 850 discussion as well. And again, it's trying to make the argument. In some cases, I'll be fair to the ministry to say that perhaps they weren't entirely off the mark. But as we've seen as well in some of our schools where we've had to go back and get an addition built shortly after a school is opened, even maybe while the school is being built, that the ministry just didn't get it right. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. In the Caladese example, we got 650. I know my community. 868 homes being built in the boundary of that school. It's not going to be enough. When they all move in, we'll be in the same situation here. But to your point, Trustee Pramola earlier, we got what we got, and we have to work with that. And so I'm happy that I'm surrounded by a team of amazing people who can make this work. Thank you, Trustee Benjamin. Yes.
Thank you, and through your chair, yes, I was just going to ask you that. Is that area around Malala Yousafzai a developing community, as you said? Are you expecting more houses to be built in that area, or it's already reached, whatever its capacity?
Yeah.
So there's no.
So one of the things that would help us understand it is when you see the map that the report provides, where it's Malala, and it also shows Roundtree and Cheney and how close they actually really are. But you'll see it's pretty much built out. Do I have that right, Dana? Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Chair Cameron, it is largely built out community.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to share, I met the principal of Fairview Senior, who is just down the road. And he told me that he had to add 2 new divisions this year because of an increase in the number of students. We have a number of big rides, buildings being constructed. So what happens if those huge buildings come up and you cannot accommodate those students in the schools that are already, there for a number of years? So what do we do?
All data.
More portables?
Thank you for the question. And through you, Chair Cameron, that actually can become part of our annual planning document conversations, where we're looking at areas where we see potential enrollment growth. We're looking at the capacities of the schools, and if we see areas of concern where we need to have conversations about potential boundary changes or enrollment caps or whatever it may be, we do engage in those conversations through that process. And sometimes there are things that happen in September with enrollments that we have to make last minute adjustments to, but that usually those types of conversations flow through our annual planning document process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? So I have a couple of questions, perhaps statements, would be more like it. In trying to study this, I had a question to the team. Will any of the children who have been, so while this school was being built and people were moving into the area, those children who were coming to the public school system from that area were being redirected to Aloha and James Grieve. Ideal.
Yes.
They were in the old Aloha.
Yes. So through you, Chair Cameron, the students at Malala prior to being moved to their new location were held at the Aloha Holding School.
Right. So I wanted to know, are any of the children who might be redirected coming from Aloha? Because they've already had a transition. The answer is no. So because they're part of the current school population, and only new registrants would be redirected. I was pleased to hear that no students with special needs will be redirected, that they will be staying and have stability. That this is not for this year. This is really about planning for next year. I wanted to know if it's 850 pupil placed inside the building and 7 portables times 20 each is 140. That really leaves the school just shy of 1,000 spaces, 990. That's a big school. I mean, we know we have big schools. Aylesbury is a huge K-8 school. This is a K-8 school. Southfields Village has got 1,100 kids in it too. So we know that that's not ideal though. And so hopefully, as Controller Thomas had mentioned, as enrollment stays balanced, maybe some of those portables can come off the property and more children will find their way inside the building. I do want to make one suggestion to all trustees, and this would be for all of us here or not here. When Malala Yousafzai Public School has an open house, a grand opening, I want to encourage everyone to come to it. That there may not be room for all of us, but we should ask. Because this has been a long time coming, and maybe I talked to Lindsay Avery, the principal today, who I know because her mom taught at Caledonese Public School many years ago. She is hoping, but not guaranteeing, that Malala Yousafzai herself may be here. No guarantee, but if she's in the area, at least they'll try to tie the grand opening to when she's here and in the area. So I encourage everyone to come and have a look and see what spectacular school this is. And I think that's all I have. It's 40 classes, right? So everybody keep that in mind. 40 seems to be the number that gets capped. And that includes the classes in the portables, right? As part of that 40. So I did talk to the principal, as I said, she is hiring 7.1 new teachers after reorg immediately because appreciably the school is full. So did we move this?
Yeah.
To the floor?
No.
Yes, we did. Okay, so it's moved, and if there are no other questions, all in favor of receiving this for our information, that is carried. Dana, thank you.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, everyone.
You make the sun want to shine. Thank you, Dana. So you're welcome to take a cookie on the way out as well, please. And item 9.2 is a procurement activity report. Also here for our information will be presented to us by Wendy Dobson, the Controller of Corporate Support Services. Wendy, thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, as mentioned in front of you is the procurement activity report, excuse me, for the month of August 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2024. Some highlights within this report are the award of the following contracts. Architectural services for additions, renovations, childcare space, demolitions, and restorations. LED lighting upgrades for Lauren Park Secondary School, Applewood Heights Secondary School, North Park Secondary School, and Arundel Secondary School. And finally, supply and delivery of physical education clothing, team uniforms, apparels, and spirit wear. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this report.
4 questions. Trustee Bailey, will you move this?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Kamali, second. It's on the floor. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's received. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. And item 9.3 is the Wendy Dobson continued show. Vandalism activity report. Also here for our information. Wendy, the Controller of Corporate Support Services. Again, thanks, Wendy.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Cameron, the vandalism activity report is for the period of July 2024 and the month of August 2024. Some of the highlights in the month of July were total incidents of 31, varying between vandalism, suspicious activity, break and entering, attempted break and entering, and miscellaneous mischief. And for the month of August, the total number of incidents were 39, again, including vandalism, suspicious activities, break and entry, and some mischief. During the summertime, as you may be aware, when there's no staff in the schools, vandalism does tend to increase a little bit over the summer months. With that said, the amounts of the vandalism that are being reported are not outside the norm. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Trustee McDonald, will you move this to the floor? Trustee Davies, second. It's on the floor. Are there any questions about the vandalism report at 9.3? Your final report, Wendy. Well done. All in favor? Received. It's carried. Thank you. Item 10 is communications. There are none. Item 11, trustee motions for consideration. There are none. Item 12, trustees notices of a motion. I have received none. And item 13 is adjournment. Does anybody want to adjourn? Trustee Davies, trustee Bailey, will you second it?
So second.
And all in favor of adjournment. Thank you, everyone.